Hello, my name is Edward Smalls. I'm doing my presentation on the failure of the education system. It is on why there needs to be an education reform and better budgeting of spending. Uh, Table of contents. Albert Einstein wrote, "Everybody is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that it's stupid." And I think that's very telling of this education system, because we mostly base it off of if you can or cannot uh, memorize and uh, regurgitate the information that you've collected in your brain. Why it's important. The cornerstone of a nation is its education. Uh, we have failed the youth. We have a teacher shortage. I do not want future generations to endure what I had to, or what anyone below my standard of living has had to deal with in poorer states or less fortunate places. I'm arguing for we need to spend more efficiently on the school system. There needs to be an education reform, and we need more teachers. We have a teacher crisis coming along because they're either not getting paid well enough for people to go, we should do that, or they have this mindset that it's not good, like a good thing to go into. Small beginnings. The Boston Latin School, established in 1635, it was created due to colonists finding that teaching at home or in church was insufficient and decided to delegate it to public funding. So, as in most times of great building of society, once there is enough people to separate out and focus on one thing, there was a niche that needed to be filled. And as we can see here, people filled it with what was needed. How we got here. In 1837, the first standardized curriculum was created. In 1918, all children needed to attend primary school. In 1965, an act created and enforced where schools were funded by the government. I think this is really telling of what will happen in the future if you look at patterns that have been going on. We have now have more technology in the classrooms. There are more platforms to learn knowledge not based on the curriculum. More young adults seeing no need to go to college. The start of life skills classes. Those have been coming along gradually in our establishment of the American education system, but right now it is really exploding onto new platforms like the master class or other places like that, where you can get an education that doesn't involve the AP Chem or calculus or stuff like that. It's just stuff that you want to learn. Why should we change a system that has been working for generations? That's one argument I see for people to say, why should we change the American education system? And I say, we need to change it for the better and for the next generation. And to make sure it is a medicine that is needed, but a treat that is wanted. For I believe that educating somebody on something and seeing that glimmer of hopefulness and love in that whatever it is very important to all people to have in their lives, to want to learn more and become better and just generally grow. How will we pay for it? We don't really need to add more, just redistribute it better. If you look at many high schools, it's very unevenly distributed. I would say, for if you live in a poorer part of the city, it doesn't look as well. It doesn't do as well as a higher end part of the city. It usually has less abilities to help the kids get into an AP class or ACT or SAT study sessions. Um, and that's very unfair, as I would say. The American education doesn't budget to help its students properly. Why is every child not given, if needed, a laptop and stable Wi-Fi to so they can finish homework at home? Why must a child pay to get food from the cafeteria? Why are the books not kept up to date? I would say change it every like 5 to 8 years, because you don't need it new every year like how colleges do it, but you can space it out every about 5 to 8 years, because that's when probably a bigger change has happened. Research, USA spends 5% of its GDP on education, while other countries like Denmark spends 7.6% of its GDP, 66.6 million, a decrease of 10 million from last year's budget, from 2019 budget. We spend more on students than any country in the world. That's from a Vox article. It does vary from state to state, and it doesn't factor out non-instructional expenditures like security and other things like that. It has no real applications besides to prepare people to work at cubicles. It would be fine if it also installed in us to want to learn. The curriculum ruined reading for most people. The curriculum is very one-sided, as I would say. It's not built to grow creativity and just creativity in general, because it's mostly just, can you take this information and regurgitate it as fast as possible. It's not built on, you should ask somebody to help you if you don't know something. And I feel like that's a very bad mentality to get to. And most people have to unlearn that. My research: Singapore has spent the past 40 years transforming its economy from a blue-collar based job market to a tech-based, white-collar one. It all started with changing their education system, which they overhauled in the past decade. I got that from an article. Japanese kids average just 3.8 hours a week, but still manage to be on the higher end of the worldwide math score. There are not enough teachers. There is a teacher shortage in most of the world. The teachers are not getting paid well enough. The vast majority of teachers have a side job or a spouse to help pay. I do not think that teachers need to have a side job or even have to work off of a spouse just to have sustainable living. I know there are different factors to that, but I feel like it's a factor that should be still taken effect, because why should teachers be paid this low when most of what we need in our lives are based off the money that we get from a said job, and their job is to teach, which is very important. Research: 1 in 3 teachers in America feel as if they are not important. The number of certified teachers in the U.S. is shrinking. If you compare the average middle school teacher in Finland to her college peer, she makes about 98 cents, while in America it is 65 cents. The average pupil to teacher ratio in America is about 15.3 to 1. With my job interview, I went to Claire Martineau. She's a math teacher at Wando. And I chose her because she is an actual teacher and she could give me more an in-depth look at it. One of her quotes was, "That was probably the best thing I learned, was how to use the internet to teach myself, because it's all there." So even back like 5 to 10 years ago, you could learn a lot from just going on the internet and just learning as much as you could and still be fine. It's just you do need to still have a higher education, like um, college degree. It does help in many ways. Continued. I don't know how people are teachers and have children at all. Like, I'm a single individual who I am providing for, and that goes back to why we need to start paying teachers a little bit more, because most of them do have children. Maybe not all have. All of them also have a spouse to help them with the children. So I just feel like that is a very good thing to make light of. My product is a reform school outline. K-12 schooling would need to be changed and what could be kept. Something to show how hard it is to teach with too many kids in the class, base it off multiple schooling systems around the world. For if we can take parts of each, like a different schooling system, I think we can do a very good job at it. The problem, the problem is that we need to change, but are unwilling, for whatever reason may be, to change and try and become better as a country to help our children in their future endeavors. We are heading into an age of amazing ability to teach ourselves by simply typing it into Google. That is a change that has not been seen, and I think we need to truly make sure we take the most out of it. Education needs a new way of being taught and funded. I learned that we are the number one spending per student, but ranked low, put next to other developed countries, and I think that's very saddening. So it is not how much we put in, but how we use it. If we use it properly, it can be something that is amazing. The most of the world is having a teacher shortage. That is very true, and I think that is very saddening because teachers are very important in all cultures and should be treated as that in all cultures. And my citations. Thank you. Any questions? No?